dream, heard the Great Spirit's voice come in a dream, and he says, "You are the big eagle, and the big eagle shall return to his nest." And I was a big eagle, but still a man. I had wings, and I was flying up over the rocks of Upper Sacred Canyon, and the children were coming up around the rocks on foot under me. That was the thing that brought me up here. And I'm particularly defenseless when I come up here. I have no money, and I'm driving an old broken down car, and I got a young wife, and I'm an old Indian. And I'm moving into an area that don't particularly like Indians, and they like people with money a lot better than people without money, and I don't have any of these things. So I got to create me, that's me out there, with a bolt of lightning. You know, if they horse around with me, I'll throw a bolt of lightning at them, you know. I came to this mountain in May of 1968, driving an old 1946 Chevy pickup with a rod out. Had $36. We camped up in a short sage during a blizzard and thought we'd freeze to death before morning. And about the only thing we could find to build with was fuel boards and scads of old bottles from across the freeway here. So we sculptured Thunder Mountain House in the first year. The majority of it was done in about 7 years. That's when I was working from 4 in the morning till 9 every night. Being an outcast and a reject, I spent a lot of time on the road as a kid, and then there was no place to be. So I'd always wanted to build something along a major artery where people could just camp for free. I wanted to build a cathedral-like building where they could find their spirits too, along with food and a place to sleep and not waking up and finding a big old deputy sheriff with a shotgun in their face. And all the experts said you couldn't build a house out of rock, and that's what I wanted to build it out of. I was born in Okmulgee, Oklahoma. Good morning. Come on. Come on. You got some breakfast, huh? Yeah. Yeah. And Okmulgee is the Creek capital. And my father was a member of the Creek Nation. Great-grandfather was a white man who moved into the Creek Nation and married a Creek woman. And then grandfather, he married a Creek woman. That butter? Did you have any good dreams last night, Doc? And then also, my father became totally disenchanted with the loss of the sovereignty of the Creek Nation. So he just became an individual. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's yours.
I'm gonna feed her first.
I was 12 when I first went out on my own. I probably wouldn't have, except that my father expired. He ascended. And my mother remarried, and there's no place for a son in a house with a stepfather. When a man marries into your house, why, the oldest male is not particularly wanted around anymore. It's much better if he goes someplace else. And it doesn't matter what age he is. And so you took the road or did whatever you could, you know. Like even now, I don't belong to any Indian nation. I don't belong to any white group. I don't belong to any church group. I don't belong to anything.
This is my husband, Chief Rolling Mountain Thunder.
This is Light-Saraf Lightning Thunder, my boss.
I was the model for the Earth Mother. She's protector of all the little children, and that's what the 2 little ones represent that are with her. She protects them, she guides them, takes care of them. That was one of the first statues that he'd done.
We are all part of Earth Mother. Each one of us is a complete universe, never be repeated. Your spirit or my spirit will never be any more repeated than our fingerprints.
It's not really supposed to be me. It's just something that happens. He does that with a lot of people that he's visited with, people that have been here. Their faces come out in his sculptures. There's faces here that look like his kids. There's just no real modeling done. He just does it freehand. It wouldn't work right for me to say, well, I like this one best of all, because Thunder could look at it in a different way, and it could dampen his spirit towards it.
The four female figures facing to the north are the four races of mankind, a red one, a black one, and a white one, and a yellow one, except that sometimes they just get colored with whatever paint we have. Quetzalcoatl, who depicted out here as a man of many feathers, and he has these feathered serpents with him. To us, he was about the same as Christ is to the white man today. That is Sarah Winnemucca, who was quite a stateswoman, who spoke for the people of the West before the turn of the century. She didn't take any nonsense from the bureaucrats. This figure is the guardian of the lodge. He's old. He's several thousands of years he's been setting guardian houses. The other faces are the children watchers, and they protected little children. If anyone mistreated or was cruel or unkind to little children, you'd have all of these creatures after you.
This is Thunder, Mountain Thunder, Little Thunder, Big Thunder, and this is True Brave Eagle Thunder. Their nickname's Bucky. And this one's Naomi Ruth Walking Eagle Thunder. And this one's Sacred Star Talking Eagle Thunder. My name is Obsidian Lightning Thunder.
My children are great. I think a lot of them. They're all different in every aspect. There's, well, like Little Thunder right now, he's what a lot of people call a little male chauvinist. We have our ins and outs. We'll fight and argue, but still he'll get in there protesting, letting me know that he doesn't want to do it. But as long as we're together working on something, we can work it out. Obsidian is more like a queen. She was born that way. You don't tell her what to do, she tells you what to do. A lot of people saying that she's a little ISIS. And the little girls, they're easy to get along with. Little talking eagle, she'll move in and help on things, and she likes to go out and milk the goats and things like that. The main thing I want for the kids is that they're able to grow up, make their own decisions, and hopefully not go through a lot of the pressure and strain of society that we've gone through. We've told them everything's not exactly the same. It's different out there than it is here. There are two different worlds, but they're prepared for it. Ready? Yeah. Here's your pen. Push it hard. There. Here's another one. Put it on there. Can you get it? Push it. There you go.
Wrist.
I'm happy with what I got. If we're flat broke here, it doesn't bother me.
You remember? Well, about 800 winters ago, the Paiutes came into this country and into this camel country, and they pushed the ancient people back into the Thunder Mountain, into Dawahiwi. And for a while, they were the enemy of the ancients, but then they all became one. About 400 years ago, why, there were some of the people here who had not become friendly with the Paiutes. This was about 45 miles south of Dawahiwi, the Loch, home of water spirit, spirit of the bush, spirit of the sand. So the Paiutes were missing people, and they found out that the giant red-headed people were eating their people.
Living inside the sculpture is like living in a dream. There's nothing else like it. You live in a city, you've got one house duplicating another. There isn't another one duplicating this one. When Thunder first started down here, there was nothing here. It was all prairie down here. Going out and collecting bottles, digging pipeline ditch by hand, watching the different buildings go up. There's never anything the same. You notice something different every day. And I've lived here for 11 years and I'm still seeing things that I've never seen. He just starts. He'll mainly start out with a little form, no planned idea at all. He just gets up and says, I'm going to sculpture something. We'll go out, maybe get a load of sand, mix a cement or something, and he just starts working. I would mix cement, just be with him mainly to get him started and hand him something if he needs it.
I'm always exhilarated, getting started on something new, excited. It's just following the impulse of the moment. Well, usually I'm reluctant to start any new piece because the nature of mine is that when I start something, I got to stay with it till I finish, and particularly if it's a big project. It's going to mean long hours and a lot of time, but I also feel very excited and exhilarated. Quite often I don't sleep the night before. In fact, usually never do. It's a very happy time. Yeah, full of song. It's a time of singing when you're working. I think about the individual I'm trying to copy or do one of, and usually it's somebody I knew, and trying to get out just a little bit of their spirit. Anybody that's important, I can recall them. I can even recall all their details. Although it wasn't always that way, because I can remember the first time I wanted to make an ear. Oh, God, what in the world does an ear look like? Because you don't pay that much attention to them. What does an ear look like, and where is it? So I had to find an ear and look at it. If I have any artistic talent, I probably got it from my father, because he was a creator too, but he created more practical things to use. Oh, if you were hungry, he could sit down and whittle out a bird cage. My father was a hard worker, a joyous one. He was always full of song. And any spiritual thing, I would have to say I got from my grandmother or my mother, because they were both very spiritual people. My grandmother was a wisdom woman or a prayer woman. And everything was by the power, and I don't know that my father was a spiritual man. Used to whittle out little picks and shovels and Winchester rifles and traps, and then people that you know, little small figurines. I did that through the 30s and the 40s, and in the 40s I started with rock. And I always wanted to do cement, but all the sculptors and everything said you can't do things with cement. We're supposed to do things out of cement, according to all the experts. And I see people do sand sculpturing, and it always seemed a shame to me to go to all that effort and make it out of sand and just flow away. So why not use something that would remain for a while? And then I think about the mid-60s, why I just started doing cement anyway.
He concentrates a lot on it. If something isn't the way he likes it, then he'll go through and take it all apart, start over until he gets it to where it looks, like a real thing.
I'm not even certain I know what an artist is. Well, I'm a builder, a creator of nothing, from nothing. Just a guy who can take something everybody else says is useless and make something out of it. And that isn't really to prove anything, it's just that you got it, it's there to be used. You work this aggregate too much, this little mix, and the aggregate separates from the sand and everything. It just starts to flow, starts to run. Of course, you got to defy that law of gravity, hanging wet stuff perpendicular. When I take a rock or something and make a face out of it, I've created a being. And take a handful of mud and make a face out of it. I brought the face out that was already there. Start a job and finish it, why, you can look back and say, well, I like it or I don't like it, or be satisfied or whatever. When I complete a job, it's always a real good feeling. No matter how hard it was, why, it seems easy. Nothing to it. I like to look at it for a while, then I never see it again. But I do the same thing with a tree, you know. Plant a new tree and go back and spend a lot of time nurturing it, and once it gets up to maturity, I'm apt to forget all about it. And something else comes up. Start on the next one. You probably already started on it before you finished the last one. That's all we can do on that now. Yeah, I would set a little happier face toward the west, so it's been a long time since I've done any of this. I don't know, see. I've always called myself, a father. Yeah, even when I was a cop. I have 11 children. 5 here, and the rest are grown and gone. And on the whole, they're happy people. None of them smoke, none of them drink. Some of them can cuss good, though. Well, that's just me, 1975, standing up again. That's when they got me down to where I weighed 121 pounds. And had been sitting mostly dejected all winter, waiting for something to happen. And so I got up again and went back to work. Actually, I had much more in mind than what's up there now. The incident with the Outram being drugged by the car and by the people here, and the sheriff taking no interest in it, why, that just slowed it considerably, made it a lot less than what it would have been. I was very happy working in the canyon, and at the same time I was planning to get this arch underway. I came out of the canyon that day. This carload come in, and they first threatened her with a gun out here, and then they hooked her on a car and drug her out high speed, and I see her disappearing, hanging on this car, and then they threw her off the gravel on about 60. I went after him, overtook a highway patrolman. He arrested him for attempted homicide, but the sheriff let him loose when they told him they didn't mean to do anything wrong. And it led into one thing and another, and finally the sheriff's office, and we were going down in a sea of slander. Because in order for them to justify their treatment of us, they had to just bring in everything they could and try every means possible to get rid of us. This is my third son, Sid. He was 19, and he was coming up here the 3rd of April in 1969 to help me build a mountain, and he was killed on April 1 of that year. Well, he was a bigger man than I was. At 19, he was even bigger. Most of my sons didn't get bigger than I was until I was 25 anyway, but this one did. I wouldn't be here if he hadn't been killed. So I boarded up the house and buried all of our non-perishable Indian artifacts and left the mountain. We didn't have a lot of money, and the car would just quit running in sparks. Eventually, we turned around and came back to the mountain. And I got back up there, and I'm still bereft with grief. I didn't know what to do, and I looked down here, and there was a car sitting here. And it was the man who owned this property. And I asked if he would sell it to me. And he said, yeah, 25 down and 25 a month, 500 an acre. So I bought it. And might have it paid for in another 6 months. 11 years, $25 a month. When I first conceived this idea, 40 years ago, there were a lot of older people starving and going without, and dying for lack of something to do. So, and then I worked with kids that were also castaways, and nobody wanted them either. Many times it was either they go with me or they go to jail or reform school. So I wanted to bring the two together, the wisdom of the old and the enthusiasm of the young. That was what a lot of the kids were that I was trying to work with. I was thrown out. Your parents don't want you, your family don't want you, and your people don't want you. They don't mind you living, but don't bother them. Get out on your own. So I've been out on my own since I was about 12. And why I had this particular vision, I don't know. I mean, I'm one of those that was cast out, cast away. So I sculpted castaway things. I guess one thing leads to another. When I first came up here, I had the notion that perhaps I'd failed the Great Spirit because I looked at this and that I'd done, and some of it seemed like failures, you know, because I didn't finish it. But after I got here, and the problems we ran into, and then with my own particular personality, well, we bought the property up on the hill, but we were first called squatters. You know, that was the way the feelings were around this country. Those squatters up on the hill. But then I think due to the happenings here in '75, I didn't lose my faith in the Great Spirit, but I lost my. I don't think I can do it. I feel like I'm in a holding pattern. You know, just trying to keep it together until something happens. And still trying to improve a little bit and go on. But I'm not reaching out trying to grab anybody to help or do anything. It's like I told my daughter this morning, I couldn't feel that the world was going to be at least as free for my great-grandchildren as it has been for me. And I'd be very disappointed and disenchanted with life. And I think all of us should do everything we can to keep that freedom, the idea of it, open for the children. The Great Spirit came to me out in the hostel right after we built it, you know, in a dream vision. He just breaks right in the middle of a dream, and it's a loud voice like you hear when they break in on a television, you know, and say this, we interrupt this program to bring a special announcement. He came in and he said, you are the big eagle, and the big eagle shall return to his nest. Immediately I was up over Sacred Canyon, flying over the rocks just above the spring, and you were all down around the spring area, just starting up around that big line of rocks, and I was climbing higher and higher. I was still a man, but I had big eagle wings. So that's when I started to buy this Thunder Canyon. And it was wintertime, and it was slating and snowing, and we walked the whole distance up through there. It was Meredith and Dale and I and one other fellow, I've forgotten his name now. And we're trying to pick the site for the first house and also choose. You got a story to tell too? Hmm? Yeah, ha, ha. Yeah, ha, hey. Yeah, ha, ha. Yeah, ha, hey. Yeah, ha, ha, honey. Yeah, ha, ha, honey. Yeah, ha, ha. Yeah, ha, hey. Yeah, ha, ha. Yeah, ha, hey. Yeah, ha, ha, honey. Yeah, ha, ha, honey. Yeah, ha, hey. Yeah, ha, ha. And some of them say a man's got to do what a man's got to do. It's a job that nobody else will do, and I can't be fired from. Okay, they can fire me from it, but nobody can replace me. And nobody else is going to do it.
Thank you.